Welcome to Sacred Spaces, the other side of the story. I am so excited today to welcome a new green to this platform. And you guys, she has her own YouTube channel. She probably may talk about that, but I seen a little bit. She is a postpartum chef and a birth worker. And I know she's a whole lot more than that, but we're gonna start right there. A new welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And I'm going to tell you all, I did a previous interview with Mama Ia Sawu, and Mama Ia leads a dance class, dance healing class for women. And so I was able to meet Anu at that class. She actually came and introduced herself to me. And so I am excited, Anu, to welcome you to Sacred Spaces, the other side of the story. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Queen, for having me in your space. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I do live in a city and we will hear remnants of city life. I'm sorry in advance, but thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Yes. I wanted to start with because when we talk about you being a chef, a postpartum chef, and a birth worker, but I've never actually heard of a postpartum chef. So if you could just share with us a little bit about what that is and what you do. Obviously it has to do with helping moms and how you help.
It's just someone who focuses on the nutritional aspects of the mother and the newborn baby. So in whatever way that the mother needs assistance, um, whatever her needs are, like if she needs to build up her iron, if she needs blood building herbs, if she's having trouble producing milk on her own. So it's just really focusing on fully nourishing the mother, and while you're fully nourishing the mother, the hopes are to fully nourish the infant. So based off, it's tailored. It never looks the same for each mother, depending on what those needs may be. And whatever their cultural background is, I try to respect people's culture and their wishes based off of what they need um, specifically to them. So there's a lot of like warming foods that we focus on, like a mother who gives birth during the winter months. You want to definitely focus on warming the body, keeping the internal warm. So yes, so a postpartum chef is someone who shows up for a mother after birth and makes sure she gets all her nutritional needs met through the food that she's eating.
Okay. It's so interesting because I don't think I've ever heard it said that way before. I literally picked up my pen and paper when you began to speak. But you said you talked about warming foods to make sure internally she's warm. And you said,
Yeah.
like during the winter months. So I can you talk to us about what that looks like and even what do you mean by warming foods?
So right now, we have a lot of squash, a lot of root vegetables, and so you would turn those things into like soups, depending on what they're some mothers are plant-based, some mothers aren't. So if a mother is not plant-based, then she would be drinking a lot of bone broths, a lot of herbal teas, and a lot of fresh juice,
Oh,
especially if she's not able to produce milk right away. So then we'll start juicing a lot of different fruits to help with her ducts opening up so she can produce milk on her own. Um, you know, there'll be herbs, of course, that we will put into some teas that we're making for her to produce some milk. If she lost a lot of blood during the birth, then we would use some blood building herbs for her. But right now, so I just want to go back a little bit. In the past, we didn't have special names like postpartum chef. You just had a family. You had an elder, you had a great grandmother, a grandmother, a great aunt, or, a neighbor that has had some wisdom, has had some births under her belt, has taken care of some women after birth, and they knew exactly what to do. They knew what herbs to go out and get what was in season, or what to make, and how to support a woman so she's not feeling like she had to get up out of bed, leave her home, go grocery shopping, come back, prepare meals while she's still trying to build up her energy. So now today we have things like a postpartum chef because families are not what they once were. A lot of people don't live in close-knit communities. A lot of people live in cities. A lot of people work. So even like, a lot of older people who may have retired because of the cost of living, they're going back to work. So now that their children are having children, they really can't stay and take care as they would have in the past because they have to take care of themselves to eat because of the cost of living. So now you would hire someone like myself to come in and step up and provide those needs. But back in the day, it was just a family member who had the time and the wisdom to provide. So yeah.
Thank you for just even taking the time to back up and say that this is how we naturally lived, right? That it's our family that really performs this function. Because when I'm talking about sacred spaces, I'm talking about healing spaces for people of African descent, no matter where we are in the world. And so to hear a young woman like you come with this level of wisdom, I wanted to inspire others that are older and younger than you, right? Um, to begin to share, because I know there are a lot of our family members that have some of that wisdom that you have shared, but they're not oftentimes surrounded by people who understand them or support what they do, because they may be more focused on, I have to survive, I have to work, I can't do this and that. How do I juggle all of this? And yet we're coming back into, we have to create that sacred space. You create sacred spaces, not just for the mother, but for the baby. And I'm sure the fathers, because when you take that burden off of the mother, it gives the father space as well. So you're actually nurturing the entire family.
Family.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's more of a holistic approach. Uh, sometimes when people are hiring a birth worker, depending on what their needs are, um, you can get a lot of single mothers hiring a birth worker because they don't have the support. And then there's another side where you get the family hiring a birth worker because it's a whole family unit that needs support. It's not just the mother, but it's the husband also helping him, guiding him, not stepping on his toes or trying to take over what he feel his duty is, but just adding some support to that, you know. And I'm so thankful that now we are in a time where both parents can get maternity leave because before
Yeah.
it was just the mother.
Yeah.
Now they have, depending on where you work, now the husband of the partner has maternity leave as well. Um, because most likely when you're doing postpartum care, uh, if you can, you will want to provide at least three 3 to 4 weeks, and making sure that 40 days, 30 to 40 days,
Mhm.
the mother is able to not exert too much energy. She can stay in her room, keep her head covered, keep her feet covered, get someone, if you're not skilled, to do bone binding and belly binding.
What was
Just
the
these are
first thing
different
you said?
steps.
You said bone binding.
Yes,
What does
yes.
that mean?
The closing is called, it's a closing of the bone ceremony. It's an indigenous practice where
Okay.
you're, yes, you're closing up you're closing up the bones, closing up the parts of the body that may have been opened during that initiation, and making sure that a lot of people don't know, if you don't take care of yourself after the first 30 to 40 days of after birth or during your pregnancy, it shows up in your 50s and your 60s
Wow.
as arthritis, all types of like um, different, I don't want to say autoimmune diseases, just because you didn't have the support or you didn't know better.
Mhm.
So there's different ceremonies that takes place to help. So when you are an elder, when you become an elder, you're not broken down.
Wow.
You're strong.
Yes.
So if I look at in my family, the women that were in the mountains that had their babies in the home, and now that they're elders, they are upright, they're standing upright. They are taking care of themselves. They look strong. They don't have autoimmune diseases because they have taken certain steps during that process, during their childbearing age and the postpartum aspect, they were taken care of. And you can see women who didn't have that support, and when they get into the 50s and 60s, having autoimmune diseases, and a lot of them don't really know where it comes from until they probably run into another holistic doctor or some type of holistic practitioner that asks them questions, and they realize my body never closed properly.
Oh.
I never got the nourishment I was supposed to get. I only had a week after birth and I went right back to work in the cold, in the winter, a
Mhm.
lot of things, because you don't see it right away.
Mhm.
If you don't see it right away, you don't know what's happening to you. But over time, you get a chance to see what has taken place because you didn't get nurtured, you didn't get taken care of, your bones didn't close, you didn't eat the right foods. You probably was eating fast food or something like that.
Yes. When you were talking about closing the bones, I pointed to my head. I thought you were talking about the baby. I know the baby has a soft spot.
Oh
So
no.
I thought that I didn't realize you were talking about the mother when you were talking about buying, what do you call it? Closing the bone ceremony.
Yeah, I was talking about the mother, but there are things for the babies as well, like certain massages that you would do for the baby in the soft spot, and making sure that their digestive system is working and the circulation in the body is proper. Those are like new infant massages that you can do, but the closing of the bone ceremony is for the mother. It's a sacred space that you create, and it's it, it's something that you would have to see. It's kind of hard to describe,
Hmm.
but it's a very important ceremony, for mothers.
Wow. So when you talked about like in your 50s and 60s you can get autoimmune diseases. What type of diseases are those?
The most common is arthritis.
Oh, okay.
Arthritis because there's inflammation that when your body is inflamed during this process, sometimes, things just don't go back the way they should have,
Yeah, yeah.
depending on a C-section, depending on certain, tears,
Hmm.
and, certain things can happen during the process. And if you are not keeping your body warm and filling your body back up, because you lose a lot, sometimes you lose a lot of blood and a lot of minerals and nutrients. You lose a lot of these things. So that's why I mentioned about keeping your head warm. Like in the Korean culture, you keep your head warm. You don't even wash your hair for like 40 days.
Wow.
You keep your socks on. You stay in your room. You just stay warm, Keep your body closed because your body has opened up on a spiritual level. It's not just a physical thing that you can see, but on a spiritual level, you have opened up so many different chakras just to give birth, just to have this new being come out. And if you're traumatized during that process, if you're traumatized after that process, you don't get the proper healing. These things can affect you and your child long, into the past. But because it's something that is the unseen. A lot of people don't pay attention to it. A lot of it is mental. And, a lot of times people don't have uh, trustworthy people to talk to or just to pay attention and take care of you. Um, and that's kind of something that I'm glad that the birth workers, there's a lot of us coming out to support. But there has been a big gap where there wasn't any support. So um, I'm just glad that there's a space, sacred spaces like your platform, that other women are recognizing. And it comes from a lot of women who've had children who realized that they didn't have the support that they needed.
Hmm.
So they create spaces where they can provide support for other women so they won't have to feel that way or go through that. For me, I don't have any children yet, but I know that both of my grandmothers, my great grandmothers on both sides of my family were midwives. So I
Oh,
know that's something that's in my blood. And during high school or during college, I always happened to be, if a friend was giving birth, I happened to be there, not not coming as a doula, not coming as someone with experience, but I'm always there to provide support, and affirmations. So I just started looking at it. Maybe this is something I should be doing, and then looking at my bloodline, realizing that my mother was born in a house from my great grandmother. On my father's side, my great grandmother was a doula, a birth worker. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something that's in my blood. Maybe this is something I should look at.
this is yeah, I'm learning so much listening to you. And when I think about um how I've heard about maternal and baby deaths in our community, the high maternal deaths in our community. And I remember right here in DC, there was a time where mothers were being told it's not good to breastfeed your baby. You should buy formula. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing. And I thought about these young girls not knowing any different, not having anybody to say, no, your breast milk is the best milk for your baby. There's a way to care for yourself. And then the next thing I heard sometime later was the baby milk was being poisoned. Well, if you were feeding your baby breast milk, then you didn't even have to get caught up in that baby milk being poisoned or not enough baby milk on the shelves for whatever reason. And I never heard what the resolution of that was. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can you hear me? Let me check.
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I just heard.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can.
All right. Perfect. Um, let me see something. Let's do this. Because I want to continue this conversation, right? I want to invite our listeners to come back for part two, where we can continue to receive all of this goodness, all of this wisdom that Anu is sharing with us. We're going to come back to part two. I see the internet connection was unstable, so I want to make sure that we get everything that she has to share, that she has to share with us today. Okay, so I will end it here and just come back in.
Okay.
All right, good, thanks.